disciples a list of things that will take place before his return. This chapter has been carefully read and studied by Christians for thousands of years. However, there is one item that has confounded many scholars and has been shrouded in mystery. In fact, you will notice that Jesus specifically stresses that the reader should understand it. Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet, standing in the holy place, whoever reads, let him understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. What is this abomination of desolation? When will it happen? And what does it mean for us today? In this video, we will use the Bible to crack the code of this prophecy, to reveal its hidden meaning. Stay tuned. Hi, this is Dustin with Hope Through Prophecy. On this channel, we help you understand Bible prophecy and be prepared for the soon return of Jesus. If you're new, make sure you're subscribed with all bell notifications turned on. And make sure you subscribe to our brand new Clips channel as well, with daily uploads of clear, concise Bible answers. What is this abomination of desolation? In Matthew 24:15, Jesus used it as a sign for his followers to flee from Jerusalem to escape destruction. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Many Christians believe that this prophecy is speaking about the Seleucid king Antiochus Epiphanes IV, who ruled Palestine from 175 to 164 BC. According to history, the Jews rebelled against him, and to try to suppress the rebellion, he stopped the temple services and offered pigs on the altar. According to the Jews, this was indeed an abomination. But it didn't cause desolation, because the temple wasn't destroyed and the services did resume. Not only that, but in Matthew 24:15, Jesus is looking forward to a time in the future. He said, when you see the abomination of desolation. So this event was to happen after Christ. Antiochus Epiphanes IV lived before Christ. Friends, we need clear answers from God's Word. Let us take a closer look at this prophecy and allow the Bible to explain itself. The Gospel of Luke tells us the same story, but from a different angle. But when you see Jerusalem surrounded by armies, then know that its desolation is near. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let those who are in the midst of her depart, and let not those who are in the country enter her. The sign for Christ's followers to flee Jerusalem in Matthew 24:15 was the abomination of desolation standing in the holy place. The same sign in Luke 21:20 is Jerusalem surrounded by armies. This clearly tells us that the abomination of desolation has something to do with armies attacking Jerusalem. But there's more clues in Matthew. Jesus said that this abomination was spoken of by Daniel the prophet. So for us to understand what this means, we need to go back to the Old Testament book of Daniel. We find the abomination that makes desolate mentioned in Daniel chapter 9. This chapter deals with another prophecy regarding the Jewish nation. After God restored the Jewish nation from the Babylonian captivity, He gave ancient Israel 70 prophetic weeks, or 490 literal years of probation to see if they would be true and faithful to Him. This prophecy is part of the longer 2300-day prophecy. To understand this prophecy in detail, check out the video called The 2300-Day Prophecy. This prophecy predicted when the Messiah, Jesus Christ, would start His ministry and what would happen to Israel when the prophecy ended. In this video, you will learn that each day of this prophecy represented one literal year. Notice what the angel said to Daniel. And after the 62 weeks, Messiah shall be cut off, but not for himself. And the people of the prince who is to come shall destroy the city and the sanctuary. The end of it shall be with a flood. Until the end of the war, desolations are determined. Then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. But in the middle of the week he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering. And on the wing of abominations shall be one who makes desolate, even until the consummation, which is determined, is poured out on the desolates. This may sound confusing, but let's break it down. The Messiah would be cut off towards the end of the prophecy. By killing the Messiah, the Jews ultimately would destroy their own city. Messiah would confirm or strengthen the covenant, the gospel, for 1 week or 7 years. This week represents the ministry of Christ to the Jews. For the first half of the week, Christ personally confirmed the covenant with his public ministry. In the middle of the week, 3.5 years, the Messiah would put an end to the sacrificial system by his own death. The gospel was spread during the second half of the week by his disciples. The Jews ended this week by stoning Stephen, and the gospel then went to the whole world. This ended the 70-week prophecy. The next event after this prophecy is described by the latter part of verse 27. And on the wing of abominations shall be one who makes desolate, even until the consummation, which is determined, is poured out on the desolates. This is the abomination which Jesus spoke of in Matthew 24:15. It is a desolating power which would come with abominations and consummate or finish off that which had been determined. In other words, it would put an end to the Jewish nation. According to the prophecy of Daniel, we should expect this to take place sometime after the gospel went to the world in the time of the apostles. 40 years after the death of Christ, the Roman armies laid siege around the borders of Jerusalem. They placed their banners around the great city. These banners represented depictions of their heathen gods. You see, the Jews considered this ground around the city as holy. To see the Roman banners on that holy ground was to them a great abomination. This was the sign that the followers of Jesus were looking for. But how were they to escape seeing this city surrounded? Flavius Josephus, a Jewish historian who was born in 37 AD and an eyewitness to the destruction of Jerusalem, recorded the following. Without having received any disgrace, he, Cestius, the Roman general, retired from the city without any reason in the world. As the Roman armies retreated, the Jews chased after them, leaving the city open. The Christians knew about Christ's warning and immediately fled the city. The Romans came back later and completely decimated the city of Jerusalem. The Jews were slaughtered, and the survivors were taken to Rome. This was a direct fulfillment of Jesus' prophecy in Matthew 24 and Luke 21. The Roman standards being placed around the city of Jerusalem was a sign for the followers of Jesus to escape. But this is not a complete fulfillment of the prophecy. A careful study shows that Jesus' prophecy of the abomination of desolation in Matthew 24 has more than one meaning. Notice in verse 3, the disciples asked Jesus, "Tell us, when shall these things be? And what shall be the sign of thy coming and of the end of the world?" So, the prophecy regarding the abomination of desolation is also a sign of the end of the world. The prophecies in Matthew 24 are multi-layered. They have an application to the destruction of Jerusalem, but Jesus used this event as an example of what will happen on a global scale at the end of the world. Things get even more interesting when we discover additional clues and meanings of this mysterious but incredibly important prophecy. Once again, we find these clues later in the apocalyptic book of Daniel. The abomination of desolation is mentioned in Daniel chapters 8, 11, and 12. Daniel 8 is a prophecy concerning the rise of a power which would claim to change the laws of God. To understand this prophecy in more detail, check out the video called The Antichrist. In brief, we see a ram with 2 horns which is attacked and killed by a male goat with 1 large horn. The ram represents the dual kingdom of Media and Persia. The goat represents the kingdom of Greece. After the goat kills the ram, the large horn is broken, and 4 other horns come up in its place, spreading out in 4 different directions. The horn that broke represents Alexander the Great. Alexander died, and his kingdom was divided between his 4 generals. Towards the end of these generals' reign, there arose a little horn. This is the same little horn that is mentioned in Daniel 7. Speaking of this little horn, the Bible says, "He even exalted himself as high as the prince of the host, and by him the daily sacrifices were taken away, and the place of his sanctuary was cast down. Because of transgression, an army was given over to the horn to oppose the daily sacrifices, and he cast truth down to the ground. He did all this and prospered. Then I heard a holy one speaking, and another holy one said to that certain one who was speaking, How long will the vision be concerning the daily sacrifices and the transgression of desolation, the giving of both the sanctuary and the host to be trampled underfoot?" Notice that this little horn power, also referred to as the Antichrist, exalts himself in the place of God, and he would cast down God's sanctuary. Then the question is asked, how long is this vision concerning the transgression of desolation? This sounds very similar to the abomination of desolation, doesn't it? If we go to Daniel 11, we will see the abomination of desolation appear again. Speaking of the same little horn power, this time as the king of the north, Daniel was told, "And forces shall be mustered by him, and they shall defile the sanctuary fortress. Then they shall take away the daily sacrifices, and place there the abomination of desolation." So it's very clear from these two verses that this power is responsible for the abomination of desolation. Who is this power? Going back to the original application of the prophecy in Matthew 24, it was the Roman Empire that was responsible for the abomination of desolation. They planted their heathen gods on the holy ground outside the city. This was a sign to God's people that the desolation was coming, and they needed to flee. Is it possible that this same power could be responsible for the abomination of desolation in the last days? When we study the book of Daniel, we find all the prophecies pointing to one power. It is the Roman Catholic Church. This power came from the ancient pagan Roman Empire. Let's have a quick overview. In Daniel 2, we see a succession of kingdoms: Babylon, Media-Persia, Greece, Rome, and divided Rome. In Daniel 7, we see Babylon, Media-Persia, Greece, pagan Rome, and papal Rome. Daniel 8 starts with Media-Persia because Babylon had already fallen by this time, Greece, pagan Rome, and papal Rome. Daniel 11 covers the same timeline: Media-Persia, Greece, pagan Rome, and papal Rome. We find that the mention of the abomination of desolation takes place during the papal Roman period in Daniel 8 and 11. It therefore stands to reason that the abomination of desolation has to do with the activities of the Roman Catholic Church. In this video, we will speak openly about this organization, but I want to be very clear. We are talking about the system, not about the people within this church, many of whom are sincere Christians following what they believe to be right. Revelation chapter 17 also gives us a description of this power. Here we find her represented as a woman riding on a beast. The woman was arrayed in purple and scarlet, and adorned with gold and precious stones and pearls, having in her hand a golden cup full of abominations and the filthiness of her fornication. When we look at history, we discover that from 538 AD to 1798 AD, the Catholic Church was the dominant world power and demanded that all people worship the Pope. They said that the only way to God was through a priest or saint. In doing this, they took away the daily ministration of Christ as our high priest in the heavenly sanctuary and replaced it with the man-made confessional system. The place of God's sanctuary was cast down by the Roman Catholic Church. Furthermore, the Catholic Church also claimed to change God's law. They removed the commandment that condemns graven images and then split the 10th commandment in two, so there are still 10. But friends, they went much further. The following act has sent shockwaves throughout Christianity, and is quite possibly the biggest deception in Christian history. The Catholic Church boastfully claimed to change the Sabbath of the Bible from the 7th day of the week, Saturday, to the first day, Sunday. This change is documented in history, and the church itself admits to this blasphemous act. Question: have you any other way of proving that the church has power to institute festivals of precept? Answer: had she not such power, she could not have done that in which all modern religionists agree with her. She could not have substituted the observance of Sunday, the first day of the week, for the observance of Saturday, the seventh day, a change for which there is no scriptural authority. You will notice that the Catholic Church admits to this change and even concedes that there is no scriptural authority for it. In fact, they claim that their authority is above the Bible. The Church is above the Bible, and the transference of the Sabbath observance is proof of that fact. All of these heinous acts were a preparation or a setup for the final fulfillment of the abomination of desolation prophesied by Jesus, the one that applies directly to us in these last days. Stay tuned, friends, and don't miss this. Let's continue. The Roman Catholic Church ruled for 1260 years. Then in the year 1798, the French general Louis Berthier invaded Rome and took the Pope prisoner. The papal dominance was broken, but since then, the Catholic Church has been regaining its power. The Vatican is steadily gaining prestige and influence throughout the world. Is it possible that we will see this power arise yet again with its abomination of desolation? Jesus indicated that this would indeed happen. Let's look at Matthew 24:15 again, but this time we will keep reading to learn more key information. Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, whoever reads, let him understand. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let him who is on the housetop not go down to take anything out of his house. And let him who is in the field not go back to get his clothes. But woe to those who are pregnant and to those who are nursing babies in those days. And pray that your flight may not be in winter or on the Sabbath. For then there will be a great tribulation, such as has not been since the beginning of the world until this time. No, nor ever shall be. And unless those days were shortened, no flesh would be saved. But for the elect's sake, those days will be shortened. After this abomination of desolation is put in place, Jesus said that there would be great tribulation, or trouble greater than anything this world has ever seen. It's true that there was great persecution when the Roman Catholic Church rose to power in 538 AD. But this tribulation spoken of by Jesus will actually bring on the end of the world. We are told that if this tribulation is not cut short, no one would be saved. So we can expect this power to do something in the last days that is going to be an abomination to God, and which will bring desolation to His sanctuary. The act will cause God Himself to step in and put an end to this kingdom and establish His everlasting kingdom. Remember the original application of abomination of desolation? It was the Roman banners or ensigns placed in the holy ground around the city of Jerusalem. That was the sign to God's people to flee from the city. Does the Roman Catholic Church have a sign which God considers an abomination? Yes, they do. The Catholic Church claims that changing the day of worship from the seventh-day Sabbath, or Saturday, to the first day of the week, Sunday, is a mark of their authority. Of course, the Catholic Church claims that the change was her act, and the act is a mark of her ecclesiastical power and authority in religious matters. Protestants accept Sunday rather than Saturday as the day for public worship after the Catholic Church made the change. But the Protestant mind does not seem to realize that in observing Sunday, they are accepting the authority of the spokesman for the Church, the Pope. Sunday is the mark of the Catholic Church's authority. The Bible tells us that in the future, this power will unite with the United States of America to enact laws that will attempt to force everyone to receive this mark of their authority. For more information on this unholy union prophesied in the book of Revelation, please watch our video, The USA in Bible Prophecy. He causes all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hands or on their foreheads, and that no one may buy or sell except one who has the mark or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. In the future, we will see the Roman Catholic Church enact a Sunday law. The force of the U.S. government will be used to impose this false Sabbath created by the papacy. This will be the second and final fulfillment of the abomination of desolation spoken of by Christ, when the papacy unites with the government to place its false Sabbath, the mark and sign of its authority, in the place of God's holy Sabbath day in the last days. In fact, we are already seeing the Pope discussing the importance of Sunday in preserving the environment. In May 2015, the Pope issued an encyclical called Laudato Si, on care for our common home. In this letter, he urges the world to take better care of the planet, and he uses Sunday rest as one way to help save the environment. Listen to what he said. Sunday is the day of the resurrection, the first day of the new creation, whose first fruits are the Lord's risen humanity, the pledge of the final transfiguration of all created reality. It also proclaims man's eternal rest in God. Rest opens our eyes to the larger picture and gives us renewed sensitivity to the rights of others. And so the day of rest, centered on the Eucharist, sheds its light on the whole week and motivates us to greater concern for nature and the poor. Here, the Pope is advocating a Sunday rest for the environment, and additional voices around the globe are joining him in this same plea, even calling for legislation that would enforce this. So, what's so bad about legislating a Sunday rest for the environment? I'm sure that many of its advocates have good and noble motives, and as Christians, we agree on the need to care for the environment. However, God has already given us a day of rest. It's the seventh-day Sabbath, not Sunday. Furthermore, legislating or enforcing a religious day or festival would be a violation of our Constitution's freedom of religion and contrary to God's principle of freedom of conscience. What's more, history tells us that legislated religion eventually leads to persecution and bloodshed. Sadly, the devil is seeking to use the good motives of people to shift society towards accepting the mark of the Catholic Church's power, Sunday. And in his crowning act of deception, Satan himself will appear as Christ in the final days. And no wonder, for Satan himself transforms himself into an angel of light. No doubt, the devil will deceive many and use his beauty and influence to promote observance of this false Sabbath, the mark of the beast. His standing in the place of Christ will be a part of this final abomination of desolation. When we consider this prophecy and look around at the political world, we can see that a national Sunday law is not only feasible, but inevitable. The Bible is very clear that it will happen. For more on this topic, check out the video, The Mark of the Beast. How shall we prepare for this event? For one, it's critical that we understand the true Bible Sabbath and begin to practice it out of our love and dedication to God. To learn more about the Sabbath and the blessings that come with it, make sure to check out the Sabbath playlist on this channel. Jesus told us that when we see the abomination of desolation put in place, we need to do some specific things. Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let him who is on the housetop not go down to take anything out of his house. And let him who is in the field not go back to get his clothes. This is not a slow, casual exit. This is an emergency evacuation. Don't even take time to grab your things. Just go. Where are we to flee, you might ask? The verse says that those in Judea are to flee to the mountains. In these end times, the idea is that we are to leave the large cities and towns and go to remote places in the country. When the COVID-19 pandemic hit, people suddenly realized the value of living away from the big cities. In like manner, when laws forcing people to worship on Sunday are enacted, those in the cities who want to follow the Bible will find it very hard to do so. Not only that, Jesus was clear that tribulation and disaster would quickly follow the abomination of desolation. In large disasters, those in the cities would suffer much more than those out in the country who can grow their own food and live off the land. God's judgments will fall on the large cities, and those who stay there will find themselves in great peril. But there's another reason why we should leave the cities. It's because of the wickedness and sin that so often abounds in these highly populated urban areas. It is becoming more and more difficult for Christians, especially those with families, to be true to God in the cities. What we see and hear affects our thoughts and actions. We are changed by what we constantly take in. God wants His children to be away from the evils of the cities and to enjoy the peace and quiet of nature that He has created. Here we can more clearly hear His voice speaking to us. Here our minds are clearer as we breathe the pure air and enjoy the freedom of the outdoors. Here we can grow our own food, helping us to survive future calamities and learn the precious lessons that God has for us in nature. When should we leave the cities? Jesus said when we see the abomination of desolation, we need to drop everything and flee immediately. If we stay in the cities without a place to go in the country, how are we going to be able to leave so quickly? It could be very difficult. Now is the time to prayerfully and carefully make plans to leave the large cities. Pray and ask God to open the way. Move forward as He opens the way. Buy land which has room to grow your own food and good water sources for home and garden use. Access to plenty of firewood is also important. If you desire to follow God's will and ask for His guidance, He will open the way. An excellent resource for country living is a YouTube channel called Health and Homestead. It provides great tips for finding country land and thriving in the country. I encourage you to check it out and consider subscribing. Finally, but most importantly, if we are going to be ready for what is coming in this world, we need to make sure our hearts are right with God. Make sure you are feeding your soul with daily Bible study and prayer. Ask God to reveal to you anything that may be separating you from Him. And as soon as you become aware of something, get rid of it without delay, trusting in God to give you the victory. We have learned that Jesus' warning of the abomination of desolation has two distinct fulfillments. Number one, when the Romans put their heathen banners in the holy ground outside the city walls of Jerusalem. This was an abomination which caused desolation. This was a sign to the followers of Jesus to flee the city at once. And two, Jesus' warning of the abomination of desolation extends to our day and will have its final fulfillment when the papacy unites with the USA to enforce the false Sabbath, Sunday, a counterfeit of God's holy Sabbath. Satan himself will impersonate Christ and give support for the observance of this false Sabbath day. Now is the time to prepare for this event by leaving the large cities and making sure our hearts are right with God. Friends, now is the time to prepare. Jesus wants to be the Lord of your life today. Don't wait until it's too late. If it is your desire to affirm your allegiance to Jesus today, just write in the comments below, "I choose Jesus today." Amen. If this video has been helpful to you, please like it and share it with friends and family so it can go far and wide. And make sure you are subscribed to this channel and our new Clips channel as well. To support Hope Through Prophecy and see my daily devotional videos, please consider becoming a Patreon as well. Most importantly, friends, keep your eyes on Jesus, the author and finisher of our faith.